In September 1935, beneath the banners and spectacle of the Nazi Party rally in Nuremberg, the German state transformed hatred into law. What had already been practiced through intimidation and violence was now given a legal framework designed to exclude, isolate, and ultimately destroy. The Nuremberg Laws marked a decisive turning point in Nazi racial policy, not through sudden brutality, but through cold, deliberate legislation that stripped millions of people of their rights while maintaining a facade of legality. Two central laws formed the core of this system. The Reich Citizenship Law redefined citizenship itself, declaring that only those of German or related blood could be citizens of the Reich, while Jews were reduced to the status of subjects, protected by no political rights and excluded from public life. Alongside it, the law for the protection of German blood and German honor criminalized marriages and sexual relationships between Jews and so-called Aryans, banned Jews from employing German women under 45, and forbade them from displaying the national flag. These measures were presented as safeguards for the nation, but their true purpose was to enforce racial separation and institutionalize discrimination. Crucially, the laws did not initially define who was considered Jewish. That task came weeks later, through detailed decrees issued by the Interior Ministry, most notably the First Supplementary Decree of November 1935, which classified individuals based on their grandparents' religious identity. People who had lived as Germans for generations suddenly found themselves labeled Jews or mixed-blood citizens under rigid racial categories that ignored personal belief, culture, or loyalty. Identity became a matter of ancestry, recorded in documents, and the state assumed the power to decide who belonged and who did not. The consequences were immediate and devastating. Jewish doctors, lawyers, teachers, and civil servants were forced from their professions. Political participation was erased. Social life became a minefield of prohibitions and fear. Families were torn apart as marriages were invalidated or rendered illegal, and children were marked from birth by classifications that would follow them for life. While Jews were the primary targets, the legal framework of racial exclusion would later be extended to other groups deemed undesirable by the regime, including Roma communities and people of African descent in Germany. What made the Nuremberg Laws especially dangerous was not only their cruelty, but their bureaucratic precision. By embedding racism into the legal system, the Nazi regime normalized persecution and encouraged ordinary institutions to participate. Judges enforced the laws, police monitored compliance, employers dismissed workers, and neighbors reported neighbors. Discrimination no longer appeared as mob violence alone. It became routine, regulated, and enforceable by the state. This legal transformation also served a broader political purpose. By satisfying radical party elements demanding harsher measures while reassuring conservative elites that order and legality were being maintained, Adolf Hitler consolidated his authority. The laws were celebrated publicly as a national achievement, while their victims were rendered invisible, silenced by fear, and stripped of protection. Over time, these statutes paved the way for more extreme policies. Once citizenship had been revoked and human beings reduced to racial categories, further steps, ghettoization, deportation, and mass murder, could be presented as administrative measures rather than crimes. The Nuremberg Laws did not yet call for extermination, but they created the conditions in which genocide became possible. They taught society to accept exclusion as lawful, cruelty as necessary, and injustice as normal. In this way, the laws stand as a warning beyond their time and place. They demonstrate how genocide does not begin with gas chambers, but with definitions, documents, and decrees that deny equality before the law. In 1935, the Nuremberg Laws turned prejudice into policy and marked a moment when the machinery of the modern state was deliberately harnessed to erase an entire people's rights, dignity, and ultimately their lives.